On March 17th, 1943, an intelligence report landed on the desk of a German admiral in Berlin. It seemed impossible. But within the fold of that single sheet of paper lay the key to Germany's eventual defeat. The revelation that America's industrial might could outproduce the Nazi war machine in ways no one had ever imagined. For Germany, it was a death sentence written in numbers. For the Nazis, it was too terrifying to believe. And for the Allies, it was a game changer that would change the course of the war forever. It was 1943, and the war was turning. On the Eastern Front, the Soviets were pushing the Germans back. In North Africa, the Allies had begun squeezing Rommel's Afrika Korps. But in Berlin, something far more dangerous was brewing. An industrial revolution that would alter the very course of history. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the German military intelligence Abwehr, was among the few who saw the truth. He had long understood the grim reality of war. It wasn't just about soldiers or weapons. It was about resources. And the numbers he was receiving from spies across the globe were terrifying. Reports started coming in. Strange whispers from across the Atlantic. A businessman who had just returned from the United States spoke of factory so vast it had its own weather system. A diplomat in Washington whispered about production targets so high they seemed absurd. An engineer in Sweden sent coded messages about an aircraft factory operating at a speed that defied belief. All these reports pointed to one place, Willow Run, a factory in Michigan that was about to change everything. The Ford Motor Company was using assembly line techniques to build the B-24 Liberator bomber, a mammoth of steel and aluminum, and the goal? To build one every hour. To the German military, this was laughable. The B-24 was a massive beast, requiring over 1.5 million parts. No one could produce such a thing in an hour, and yet all the reports told the same story. But Canaris knew, if this was true, it meant Germany was losing the war. It wasn't about the battle on the ground. It was about the factories. And America had a weapon no one had anticipated, the ability to mass-produce bombers at a scale that could outlast any army. But when Canaris brought the news to the German High Command, his warnings were met with scorn. The reports were dismissed. Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, laughed. Americans can't build airplanes, he sneered. They are good at refrigerators and razor blades. To him, this was all just American propaganda. In fact, the Nazi leadership couldn't comprehend how society they saw as inferior, a mongrel society, could achieve such a feat. They couldn't fathom how workers from all walks of life, women, African Americans, immigrants, could produce warplanes at a rate that defied belief. To Hitler and his inner circle, it was simply impossible. This ideological blindness would seal Germany's fate. The truth about America's industrial might was too terrifying for them to accept. To acknowledge it would mean admitting that the war was no longer about willpower or superior science. It would be a war of factories, and in that battle, Germany had already lost. But Canaris didn't give up. He continued to press the issue, try and convince those around him. He knew this was no longer a battle of soldiers. It was a battle of production. And the numbers coming from Willow Run made it clear that the United States could outproduce Germany in a way they could never match. By 1944, the inevitable began to unfold. Despite all the Nazi leadership's attempts to ignore the facts, the sheer volume of Allied bombers pouring out of factories like Willow Run could no longer be ignored. The German air defenses, once so powerful, were now overwhelmed. For every bomber lost, 10 more were being built. The American industrial machine was a juggernaut. By 1944, Willow Run alone was producing one B-24 bomber every 63 minutes, an unfathomable pace. The B-24s were now flying over Germany in droves, bombing factories, railroads, oil fields. The Luftwaffe, stretched thin and constantly under attack, had no answer. By the time the Allies launched Big Week in February 1944, the German aircraft industry was on the verge of collapse. The Allied bombers, now reinforced by long-range fighters, overwhelmed the Luftwaffe in the skies above Germany. And as each bomber fell, another one took its place. The Germans had placed their faith in their so-called wonder weapons, the V-1 rockets, the Me-262 jet fighter. But these weapons came too late. They couldn't make up for the loss of control in the skies, and they couldn't stop the overwhelming industrial might of the United States. In May 1945, as Berlin fell to the Allies, the ultimate irony became clear. The war had been lost long before the first bombers reached German soil. The Germans were defeated not by superior technology or a secret weapon, but by a simple truth. The United States could build more. The factory at Willow Run wasn't just a factory. It was a symbol of what happens when a free society mobilizes for war. It was a place where people from all walks of life came together to build something larger than themselves. It was a triumph of industrial might, innovation, and unity, and was what ultimately crushed the Nazi war effort. For Germany, the war was lost not on the battlefield, but in the factories. The moment that truth became clear, the fate of the Third Reich was sealed. Their failure to believe in the power of industrial production was a fatal flaw, and it would cost them everything. And so, in the end, the Willow Run bomber factory stood as a testament to the power of industry, the strength of democracy, and the harsh reality that when ideology blinds you to facts, you risk losing everything. History often turns on the smallest details, like the information on a single sheet of paper, too terrified for the enemy to believe. If you love uncovering the hidden stories that decide the course of history, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. Remember, it helps us a lot if you like and share these videos with anyone else who loves a good story. Thanks for watching.